WWE Chief Content Officer Triple H is still reportedly unsure about the finish to Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Also, is there going to be issues between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa after WrestleMania 39? We got details on that. Plus, what's Bobby Lashley's status for WrestleMania 39? New details on what the Almighty could be doing at WrestleMania. Alexa Bliss provides an update on her health after her WWE hiatus. Grayson Wallace reportedly was pulled from Monday Night Raw, but was that actually inaccurate? The Rock's daughter Ava is set for a WWE in-ring debut during WrestleMania weekend. Johnny Gargano wants his match against Grayson Wallace to be unsanctioned at NXT Stand and Deliver. Dragon Lee will make his WWE in-ring debut when he challenges for the North American Championship at Stand and Deliver 2. Roxanne Perez addresses her absence from NXT after she collapsed a couple of weeks ago on NXT programming. 2 names are set for call-ups from NXT to the main roster after WrestleMania. 2 more people qualify for the ladder match for the Women's Championship at NXT Stand and Deliver. We got the ratings for this week's edition of Monday Night Raw. The first look at the SummerSlam logo for this year's event in 2023 in Detroit. Update on WWE moving headquarters, and Trish Stratus talks her WrestleMania 39 preparation. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. We've got a jam-packed show today, so let's get straight into the biggest story, which is actually the main event of WrestleMania 39, and a lot of people thought it was a given. The American Nightmare Cody Rhodes would finish the story and become the undisputed Universal Champion, but maybe not so much, because Triple H, the man himself, the one who is deciding the finish, the outcome of that match, is reportedly not certain how it's going to play out. With WrestleMania 39 now 2 weeks away, the card for the show is all but finalized, with plans being made for the show of shows. WWE reportedly has plans in place for after the show, which is a change from previous years, but the company still do not know which plans will be used. The main event of the show sees Roman Reigns defend the undisputed WWE Universal Championship against 2023 Men's Royal Rumble winner Cody Rhodes. Many people believe that WrestleMania will be the coronation of the American Nightmare, with Reigns taking time off after the show, but that apparently is not a certainty. Per WrestleVotes, Reigns is slated to take, quote, significant time off following the show, but that is entirely based on whether or not he has dropped the titles by then. WrestleVotes added that Reigns dropping the titles is not certain as of right now, which seemingly means the finish for WrestleMania's main event has not yet been set in stone. Now, Cody Rhodes and Roman went face-to-face on this week's edition of Raw, with several mentions of AEW made by both champion and challenger. We'll talk about that, and we have spoken about that previously in yesterday's video, rather. But again, it was reported by WrestleVotes that Reigns could be set for time off after WrestleMania if, and it's a big if he drops the championships. Now, this is something that's not unheard of in WWE as well. At WrestleMania 37 afterwards, Randy Orton was set for major time off after his match against Bray Wyatt, but plans changed. He defeated The Fiend, and then he stayed on WWE television and had his partnership with Riddle bloom into RK Bro. So there can be sort of 2 different sets of plans when it comes to WrestleMania. Now, as I mentioned, Roman Reigns has reigned as the Universal Champion for over 900 days, and the end may soon be in sight. Of course, Roman is set to defend his championship against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Reigns, of course, has been working a lot more of a part-time schedule over the past year, and it seems that Roman's next extended vacation could be coming soon. As I mentioned, this came from WrestleVotes, talking about how Reigns is expected to take a significant break following his WrestleMania match, with the belief being we may not see the head of the table again until SummerSlam this year. But as I stressed, and as it was stressed by WrestleVotes too, this is all contingent on if Reigns does indeed drop the championship, which as of right now hasn't been decided or determined. And those within the know, those within the match, they still haven't been told as well. This was also kind of backed up by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, who provided an update on the results of WrestleMania 39 and if people within the WWE roster actually know the outcomes of their matches. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select provided an update noting that talent they have spoken to within WWE say that across the board they haven't been informed of WrestleMania's winners or losers as of right now. Despite the event happening in about 10 days or so, the report notes that this is common within the company to not know the results this far out ahead of the shows. Besides the main event, the Usos, of course, going to be defending the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Rhea Ripley is going to be challenging Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and Seth freaking Rollins will go one-on-one with Logan Paul at WrestleMania. John Cena is going to be facing Austin Theory, etc., etc. So there are lots of big matches, but as of right now, nobody, apart from, I guess, those within the know, i.e. Triple H and maybe people very, very, very close to him, might actually know the results. But in certain situations, they're still actively debating which is the best route to go, and that could change as we get closer to WrestleMania. And what's also interesting too, and I spoke about this previously, that already there are plans coming out of WrestleMania for what WWE wants to build to later this year. And one such thing that reportedly WWE might be wanting to build to in the case of Roman Reigns is a possible match against fellow Bloodline member Solo Sikoa. Lots of people noticed this on Monday Night Raw this week. Of course, Raw went off the air on March 20 with Roman Reigns stepping in to stop Bloodline member Solo Sikoa from getting physical with Cody Rhodes. Now, what we didn't see was the extra wrinkle that happened after the show had finished, but fortunately, fans in attendance managed to capture it. The footage in question shows Reigns lambasting a dejected-looking Sikoa on their way back up the ramp, likely for stepping up to Rhodes without Reigns' permission. Rhodes has compared Sikoa's current situation to Rhodes himself when he was in the Legacy group led by then WWE Champion Randy Orton in 2009, saying that Sikoa wasn't ready to break out on his own, just like Rhodes wasn't ready back then. That evidently annoyed Sikoa, who tried to nail Rhodes with a Samoan spike, but Rhodes managed to swat it away with a kick. When Sikoa tried a second time, it was Reigns who stood up on the apron and held him back. Reigns didn't look particularly angry, just concerned as the show closed, but evidently the sentiment had changed when he and Sikoa were walking back up the ramp. This has become a common theme with Roman Reigns, who also hasn't been happy about the Usos accepting the challenge from Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for an undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship match at WrestleMania. Thus, there have been seeds planted for any and all members of the Bloodline to turn on Roman Reigns at some point in the future. Now, if you want to get a closer look at this footage of Reigns being particularly angry with Solo Sikoa, here's a closer look. Certainly didn't look very happy with him. Now, again, that might all be part of the plan, part of the wider and bigger picture when it comes to the post-WrestleMania creative. Following the Raw on March 20, which saw the dominance of the Bloodline at risk with the new WrestleMania 39 match set and Cody Rhodes driving a wedge between Reigns and Solo Sikoa, Dave Meltzer has suggested that a long-term plan does exist. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez would explore the impact of this week's Raw segment between Rhodes and Reigns, saying, quote, "I will say, from watching the Friday show and watching this segment here, it is clear from watching these two shows that they have a post-Mania plan." Dave Meltzer would confirm that is actually correct, adding, quote, "They have a year of post-Mania plans." While Meltzer wouldn't elaborate further, Alvarez went on to speculate, quote, "This is not something where we're going to do Mania, then the creative team, Hunter and Vince and whoever, is going to wake up and be, what the F are we going to do now?" They've been planting a lot of seeds into this plan over the past couple of days. They've got 2 more weeks, and this is not going to be that normal Mania, I shouldn't say normal Mania, but many Manias you've watched, the WrestleMania main event, and it's like they've got that lull, they've got to start over again. They've got a continuation of all of this. Meltzer would highlight a difference between what he's seeing now versus creative plans under Vince McMahon, concluding, quote, "A lot of times too, when it comes to WrestleMania, Vince, when he had it, would do things that he thought the fans want, but he doesn't really want. In the period building between building until building up to SummerSlam, it was kind of like, okay, I did what the fans want, they were wrong, now I'm going to start. I'm going to go with this until I can squash the guy fans like, then we can go back to doing business." Again, very difficult to read a Dave Meltzer quote because it's very stop-start and gibberish, and this is me saying that. Let's move on. Speaking of WrestleMania, talk about Bobby Lashley. His status for WrestleMania, it's still very much up in the air, especially when it comes to the uncertainty surrounding Bray Wyatt. Lashley was planned for a match at WrestleMania against Bray Wyatt, but reports are that Wyatt has fallen ill and now may be a doubt for the show, and he hasn't been around for several weeks. With Wyatt absent, WWE WWE hasn't had Lashley on television for a couple of weeks either, not to continue to build the match with Wyatt, suggesting the chances are that it won't be happening, and not to build to a new match for a different opponent either. In an update from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, Lashley was actually backstage at Raw on Monday, so it's not like he wasn't available to be used if WWE wanted to use him. After the news emerged a couple of weeks ago that Wyatt was out of action, Lashley did post a tweet suggesting he wanted to face a different opponent at WrestleMania if Wyatt wasn't available. He wrote, quote, "I've worked too hard to be denied. I will be ready to fight on the biggest stage of them all, WrestleMania. I don't care who it is, somebody will feel the wrath of the Almighty." However, there have been no developments on TV towards doing that, and there's now only a SmackDown, a Raw, and another SmackDown before we even get to WrestleMania. Of course, there, I suppose, still is time, last-minute time, we're in the last-minute territory for a match between Lashley and Wyatt to be confirmed for WrestleMania, but as of right now, it looks less and less and less likely that the match in question is even going to be happening. Now, speaking of Bray Wyatt, one person associated with him and Uncle Howdy, Alexa Bliss. What's going on with Alexa Bliss as well? Well, she's taken to social media to share a bit of an update on her health after being out of action since Royal Rumble in late January. Bliss has not been on TV or worked any house shows since the Rumble, and there hasn't really been any news on the reason behind her absence. Bliss herself posted on her Instagram stories earlier to share that she had undergone a skin procedure at the American Skin Institute in LA. She didn't say exactly what the procedure was, but she did include the caption, "Dear younger me, you should have stayed out of tanning beds." Now, obviously, we'll let you know if there's any update on an Alexa Bliss return, but she's one of a number of names currently, which includes her former associate in Bray Wyatt, who's currently ill, where things seem to be up in the air and pretty uncertain. Now, it's worth saying, don't take this as confirmation or evidence that the skin procedure is the actual reason she's been out of action. That's just the story that she posted on Instagram, so take that for what you will. Now, one story that was doing the rounds this week so far was that Grayson Waller was pulled from Raw, and he was scheduled for a segment with Johnny Gargano to build to their NXT Stand and Deliver match, but that doesn't look like that's actually correct. As previously spoken about, the WRKD Wrestling Twitter account and Give Me Sports Louis Dangor both reported that NXT superstar Grayson Waller would appear on the March 20 edition of Raw to continue his feud with Johnny Gargano. However, Waller did in fact not appear, despite Gargano having a match with the Judgment Day's Dominic Mysterio. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select provided an update, noting that Grayson Waller was never scheduled for the program. According to numerous sources at Raw, Waller was not brought in and was not involved in the creative plans and was not set for the show in any capacity. The report notes that the first creative heard of the rumor was when they were asked if it indeed was true. Now, it's worth noting that WRKD Wrestling did have two other notes about Raw, both which were correct in that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn would open the show to make their WrestleMania match versus the Usos official, and that Solo Sikoa would shine in the closing segments. So far, the account, which has only been around for a month, has also correctly reported on Trish Stratus' return, which WWE changed multiple times, as confirmed by the likes of Fightful and the Wrestling Observer. Vikingo's imminent AEW debut, plans for the latest episode of SmackDown, FTR returning to AEW, and more. So it's just very, very difficult, isn't it? Like a lot of the things with social media and these wrestling accounts and these news accounts, you have to see the story, take it for what you will. It's like panning for gold. You have to sift through a lot of dirt to get the close element of truth, and a lot of it is guesswork, and that's all over the board, really. I think there are only a select few that don't really do a lot of guesswork, which are people like Sean Ross Sapp and Mike Johnson from PW Insider. I think they do good jobs. People like Dave Mounts does a lot of guesswork and gets a lot of things wrong, and so do a lot of these Twitter accounts. Not to say that they don't have inside sources, but they get bits of information and then make a leap and make educated guesses, and if they pay off, it gives them credibility. If it doesn't pay off, they can say plans changed, and that's kind of what they do. Now, NXT, of course, is going to have big representation during WrestleMania weekend, and The Rock's daughter, Simone Johnson, will wrestle her first match on April 1st at NXT Stand and Deliver. Simone, who was given the ring name Ava Raine, which has now been just shortened to Ava, will team up with the other members of the Schism group in an 8-person tag team match. Ava, Joe Gacy, Rip Fowler, and Jagger Reed will take on Andre Chase, Duke Hudson, Thea Hall of Chase University, along with their new ally, Tyler Bate. Ava has been an on-screen character in NXT NXT since joining Schism in October 2022, but has yet to have a match, even at any house shows. The storyline is that Schism, specifically Ava, attempted to kidnap Hale into joining their group because they believe Chase U to be a joke. Hudson actually pretty much agreed and has been trying to explain to Andre Chase that something needs to change to prove the fact that the university is in fact not a joke. In the heat of a moment, Hudson suggested putting control of the university on the line in the match, so if Schism win, they'll get control of Chase U. Yes, that's a real story that they're doing. Speaking of Stand and Deliver, Johnny Gargano versus Grayson Wallace, one of the headline matches for the show, and a big stipulation has been added to the match. On last night's edition of NXT, the crowd heard Johnny Gargano's music and expected to see Johnny wrestling. However, they were greeted by Javier Bernal, who just happened to be coming out to Gargano's theme, taking to the mic to complain that Gargano shouldn't be taking a spot away from his at Stand and Deliver. It wasn't long before he was met by the very real and very angry Johnny Gargano. After making short work of Bernal by simply beating him up and kicking him out of the ring, he took the mic to challenge Grayson Waller after the vicious attack from last week. Gargano announced that at Stand and Deliver, he and Grayson Waller would be in an unsanctioned match. Well, that would be if Waller signed the contract Gargano was signing, so he invited him to come to the ring as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Waller interrupted from the video screen and didn't seem particularly threatened, but noted he wasn't going to come to the ring right now, but he would sign it next week under one condition. That next week Gargano is nowhere near the NXT Performance Center. He doesn't want to see Gargano at NXT. With Gargano following Waller's somewhat creepy orders to give the contract for the unsanctioned match to Vic Joseph for Waller to retrieve next week, he saw Javi again and delivered another big kick to end the segment standing tall. So it looks like we're going to be getting an unsanctioned match at Stand and Deliver, which, given the personal nature of things, does indeed make sense. Lots of people have been wondering what Dragon Lee is going to be doing on his NXT in-ring debut, and we now know. On last night's episode of NXT, Wes Lee came to the ring to discuss his Stand and Deliver match, where he is able to select 4 competitors of his choice to face for the North American Championship. After a bit of time on the mic, he was joined by none other than new WWE signee Dragon Lee, who noted he would like the opportunity. While the duo shared some mutual respect, Lee officially welcomed Dragon Lee to NXT and the upcoming Stand and Deliver match for the title. Next, the pair were joined by JD McDonough ahead of his match against Ilya Dragunov, which Dragon Lee hung around for and was shown observing at ringside. So Dragon Lee will be making his in-ring debut at Stand and Deliver again. You can see that those two men have also been added in JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov too. So there's only one more person left to be added to it. Who is it going to be, and what a match that appears that's going to be at Stand and Deliver. One of the big stories heading into Stand and Deliver has been the condition and status of Roxanne Perez as well. Ahead of NXT last night, Roxanne Perez, the NXT Women's Champion, shared a message to fans after a period of ongoing uncertainty. She wrote on Twitter, quote, "I can't thank the NXT universe enough for all the thoughts and prayers over the past 2 weeks. The outpouring of support fills my heart. I wish I had better news, but the doctors are saying we're no closer to finding out what happened to me at Roadblock. I'm very frustrated, but I'll promise I'll be back stronger than ever, but I just don't know when." The tweets were addressed live on the air as NXT commentator Vic Joseph read them ahead of the qualifying match between Tiffany Stratton and Indy Hartwell to determine who would join the ladder match for the NXT Women's Championship. We'll talk about that in just a second. According to Dave Meltzer, Perez is in reality medically cleared for competition, but was off TV for a legitimate real-life reason, and the ambulance injury angle was a cover story for whatever that real-life issue was. There is still possibility, I suppose, Roxanne Perez could be added to that at the last minute, and then I guess she'll win. But it's good to know that whatever issue she had, she's now fixed from, and now this is just legitimately all for storyline purposes. Now, 2 people expected to be called up to the main roster after WrestleMania have been revealed. The post-WrestleMania episodes of Raw and SmackDown tend to see the arrival of new stars on the main roster, as well as returns and big moments too. 2 names that have been speculated for post-WrestleMania spots on the roster are Cameron Grimes and NXT champion Bron Breakker. Per WRKD Wrestling on Twitter, the 2 men are both set to become mainstays on the WWE main roster in the next few months after WrestleMania. Grimes has been absent from WWE television for months since his defeat to Joe Gacy last November, with him reportedly waiting for main roster creative before he reappears on WWE television. Bron Breakker, meanwhile, currently reigns as the NXT champion, being set to defend his title against Carmelo Hayes at NXT Stand and Deliver the day of WrestleMania Night 1. It would make sense if he's going to be called up to the main roster. Most likely he'll drop the championship to Hayes and then move up to either Raw or SmackDown after Mania takes place. I did speak just about that ladder match for the NXT Women's Championship at Stand and Deliver, and 2 more competitors have qualified for the upcoming Women's Title ladder match slated for Stand and Deliver. On Tuesday's edition of NXT, Tiffany Stratton and Lyra Valkyria became the next pair of women to solidify their entry into the championship bout. Stratton defeated Indy Hartwell, and Valkyria scored a victory over Ivy Now to pave her way into the event. With their respective victories, Stratton and Valkyria will become the 3rd and 4th women to claim their spots in the title match, joining Zoe Stark and Gigi Dolan, who qualified last week. Now, only 1 spot remains, as announced by WWE. A last chance triple threat match will take place next week to determine the final competitor in the ladder match. Amongst the 3 competing will be Hartwell Now, who lost their initial qualifiers Tuesday night, and Sol Ruka, who ate a defeat from Stark in her first attempt. But maybe Roxanne Perez, maybe she'll be a part of that as well. We'll have to wait and see for next week. Now, the ratings for Raw this week as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania. The viewership figure and demo rating for Monday's edition of Raw has been revealed on USA Network. Per Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, Raw drew 1.771 million viewers, which is up from the March 13 edition that drew 1.705 million viewers. In the 18 to 49 demographic, Monday's show scored a 0.55 rating. This is also up from the week prior that scored a 0.53 rating. WWE ranked number 2 on cable in the demo for the night. Only the World Baseball Classic on FS1 outranked Raw. The episode featured Roman Reigns going face-to-face with Cody Rhodes ahead of the undisputed WWE Universal Championship showdown at WrestleMania 39. Of course, opening the show as well was that confrontation between the Usos, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. SummerSlam this year is going to be taking place in Detroit, and we have a new look at the 2023 SummerSlam logo. You can see it on the screen right now. Earlier this year, WWE announced that this year's SummerSlam would be returning to Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan on Saturday, August 5th. Despite no matches being made for the event that is still more than 4 months away, the company has revealed the first look at the logo for the event. The SummerSlam 2023 logo is Detroit-themed, with the moniker of being the Motor City inspiring this year. Last year's logo had the influence of its home city, with Nashville being known as Music City, having inspired how that show felt. It remains to be seen how WWE will continue to promote their big summer spectacular. As previously reported, Roman Reigns could be set to take time off until SummerSlam for his big return, but again, that's dependent on the outcome of his WrestleMania showdown against Cody Rhodes. But what do you think of this new logo? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And what do you think of the SummerSlam set behind me too? WWE, of course, they're moving headquarters this year. They're upgrading, and an update has been provided on WWE's plans to move corporate headquarters, which was set to take place in the first quarter of 2023. As previously reported, the new home for WWE would be 707 Washington Boulevard in Stamford, Connecticut, a building that has stood unused since UBS moved out in 2016. Earlier this month, it was reported that WWE planned to have employees move into their new business home during March 2023. Due to the size of the operation, the move would be done in phases, with the plan being to have the first divisions moved by the end of March. It was reported that the company will slowly be moving their departments over to the new building piece by piece, as renovations are still going on inside the new headquarters, but also because WWE wants the moving process to be as smooth as possible without having any major interruptions for employees and the overall workflow of the company. In a new update on the progress of the move, PW Insider has reported that the plan is still not underway. The latest development is that the move will likely now take place in April 2023, though most likely after WrestleMania weekend. As previously noted, WWE had planned to have the move completed by the end of 2023 or early 2024, but had not set a definitive target date. So as of right now, that process has still not begun. Finally, Trish Stratus, WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus, will be returning to the ring at WrestleMania 39. She made her return to WWE to help Becky Lynch and Lita defeat Damage Control for the Women's Tag Team Championships on the February 27 edition of Monday Night Raw. The week following, Trish, Lita, and Becky challenged Damage Control to a 6-woman tag team match at WrestleMania 39. Ahead of her in-ring return, Stratus spoke with Vibe Talks to discuss her preparation for the showcase of the Immortals. She said, quote, "I'm excited. As soon as the gig was a go, I got in my ring. I got a ring set up in Toronto, and I'd get in there, I would put the kids to bed, I would go in the ring. I've always said this, if I can't do my best at what I'm doing, if I can't deliver 100%, then I'm just not going to do it. So let's say I'm ready to go." Now, her last official match at WrestleMania is a match that some people may have forgotten, maybe for good reason, when she teamed up with John Morrison and the Jersey Shore Snooki, remember her, to defeat Dolph Ziggler and Layla Layla and Michelle McCool in an intergender 6-person tag team match. I remember that, and I wish I didn't. But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.